Hello and welcome to Spiritual Book Club. Today we're going to talk about happy money. I'm Danny Fankhauser and I read a lot of books. I love to read, I love to learn, and then share what I'm learning. I'm on a mission to demystify the mystical, and I'm a meditation teacher and writer. So today we're going to talk about this book called Happy Money. I'm going to talk first about what kind of the main thesis is and the biggest takeaways. I'll talk about where it falls on what I call the woo-woo scale, and then I'll share some of my favorite quotes from the book, and then I'll get into who should be reading this book. So if you decide to read it, would love for you to share in the comments below. So first of all, I want to talk about, kind of why I came into reading this book. I've done quite a bit of personal development stuff, quite a bit of, what we call mindset stuff, but maybe have kind of avoided books that are about money. I think, subconsciously there's part of me that thought it's too good to be true, or even if it is true, it somehow won't work for me. But I definitely was, when I did finally feel like I had that ping that I should address this topic and read these books, decided to go ahead and do it. And I am definitely seeing how, what was shared in the book, it exposed my own patterns, and it definitely seems useful to me. So I hope that through this video or through reading the book that you find something useful for yourself. So the main thesis of this book, Happy Money, he talks about, you have a certain amount of money in your wallet, but is it happy money or is it sad money? And it's happy money if you earn it in a way that feels aligned with your values. And it's happy money if you spend it on something that you truly value. And so it doesn't matter what the number is of how much money someone has, it's not necessarily happy money. And in fact, he talks quite a bit about, why do people who seem like they're bad people are able to make a lot of money. And, he really emphasizes that it doesn't matter how much money you have, it doesn't mean that you're happy. And even sometimes people who are very, very wealthy, there's nothing the money can do about it if they're not happy. So it really comes back to that question of, are you earning money in a way that you're proud of, that, captures your creativity, and are you spending it on things that you actually enjoy? So let me talk about some of the main points that he makes. A big kind of breakthrough point for me was he talks about people who are wealthy. So he's, in his career, he's interviewed a lot of very wealthy people about how they got there. And he says that it's like a theme that people who are very wealthy lost a lot of money first. And I found that really interesting because in the past couple of years, I've made a big career shift from, working in startups and media and essentially having salaried jobs to creativity, writing novels, teaching meditation and yoga, and doing stuff that's, more self-employed, with the hope that I earn a lot of money through that, but also, in an attempt to do something creative that I really love and want to, bring something to the world. And all that to say, it's definitely been an extended period of time where I feel like I'm just losing money. I'm spending money on trainings, on working with, an editor who I really like, spending money, of course, on living expenses while I build up my skill set. So that's been, frustrating and maybe not quite what I had hoped that the timeline would look like, but it was really comforting to me to have him validate that's what happens, that you usually, spend the money or maybe even lose the money. And what I found, and I've talked to friends about this as well, is that when you're going through one of those tight times and you don't have a lot of money to spend, you actually realize what you do value, and you don't have that much money, so you can only spend it on stuff that you're like, well, I really, really want that. And so then that's his definition of happy money. And so there is a sense of like inner peace and gratitude with that. So, and to his point, when you're happy with the way that you're spending money and earning money, then you tend to earn more and more. Okay, so people who are wealthy lost a lot first. He talks a bit about this idea of trusting life, which to me sounds terrifying. How can I just trust? Like, aren't we just kind of, there's just so many moving pieces to life. But towards later in the book, he goes a bit more into depth, and he talks about this idea of how many friends do you have? And our modern culture, I think, also depending on what part of the world and what kind of region you live in, people are just very focused on taking care of themselves, having enough money to take care of themselves. And he emphasizes, like, if you have 50 friends and you hit a hard time and you can go to a friend and say, can I stay with you for a week? That gives you a year of that support. And I don't know, 50 friends is a lot. I don't know that I have that many, but that's his point, that when you cultivate friendships, it's not really about money. The fear isn't really about money. It's about support. There's no amount of money that can protect you from bad things happening, because bad things will always happen. But if you cultivate those true friendships, then you don't have as much fear around that. Which also goes into, when you feel secure, you take more risks. And that was super interesting to me as well, because, like, I think that gets into kind of, how woo-woo is this? Like, I've heard these ideas of, like, money likes to be in flow, so you have to spend money to make money, and, like, spend money on education, you will make more money. Like, there's some, like, logic to that, but more to, like, this point, I feel like that it is more the logical backbone, that when, say, you have a lot of those friendships, or you have family, that if you make, like, a big bet on starting your own business, maybe even, like, taking out a loan, and then if it doesn't work, you can go and stay with your family or a friend, whichever one it is, you're more likely to take that risk. And taking risks is essentially what pays off. And I think I don't know if he says this directly, but I think that's the commonality of people who do become wealthy, is that they were able to take risks. And, so it does come down not necessarily to the number of money that you have, but to this idea of, building up support in your life, and then taking those creative risks, specifically in a way that expresses your creativity, that you feel brings value to the world, that's aligned with your values. So his biggest tip is about saying thank you. And it's saying thank you when the money comes in, and saying thank you when the money goes out. And this, I think, was also the big breakthrough for me, because as much as I've tried to follow other kind of mindset tweaks around, like, starting the day with gratitude, and stuff like that, I will have to admit that, like, when I go to the gas station, I have to fill up, like, the car with gas, or even sometimes when I go to the grocery store and I see the amount, I'm just kind of like, oh, like, and it's like, these are essentials, they're things that, I need, but it's just almost feeling like my life force is drained when I'm spending, an amount on something. And so, like, that was a really clear, it really made me feel exposed in terms of, like, how my mindset is being pulled down. Like, if every time I spend money, I feel bad about myself, like, that definitely shifts my mindset. And so then there's, like, you imagine, like, your mindset kind of being pulled down, like there's a weight hanging from it. And then if your mindset is continually pulled down, then it's harder to, again, take those risks, which could be as simple as walking up to a stranger, or putting extra enthusiasm in a sales email. Like, there's just so much stuff that we do every day that how confident we feel affects the little details, even like the nonverbals. So I do feel like whether or not you are signed on to the woo-woo sense of, like, money being energy, regardless of that, I feel like this advice about saying thank you when it comes in and thank you when it goes out, really helps you appreciate the simplicity of things that you have, and keeps you in a mindset that makes a difference in everything that you do. Okay, so his other tips, are some of the common ones. If you're feeling stuck about money, if you can donate, if you can give someone a gift, something small. When you spend money, kind of adding to that, like if you're at a restaurant, just thinking in your mind, like, I hope that this money I'm paying for this food blesses the people who have made it. If you're buying something at the farmer's market, even if you're buying something at like the grocery store with the cashier, like their paycheck is related at least to the money that you're spending. So just having that in mind, like, I hope that this blesses you, and then appreciating what you have. So thinking more about not the next 5 things that you want to buy for your home or clothing or things like that. Even trainings, that's something I spend a lot of money on, is different kinds of, meditation or yoga trainings. And there's always like the 5 more that I want to do next. And so even thinking back to the ones that I've already done, how much that they've benefited. So yeah, saying thank you, feeling secure. One of his quotes, "You have to believe people are good and want to help you." That's definitely, that one also kind of, I think, exposed one of my, mindset blocks around that, is just thinking like people are too busy to hear what I have to say. And so if I'm sending out, an email asking someone to collaborate on something, there might just the way that I word things probably is filled with a little bit of self-doubt. And so yeah, just having that mindset of people want to help, and people are good. So those are some of the big takeaways. I would say like the biggest one is that idea of saying thank you when the money comes in and comes out. And I'm going to read some of my favorite quotes. Okay. So he says, "We are afraid of so many things. We think it is about money, work, and people, but it is really about us and our fear of the future. We should not be fooled by anxiety and fear. Whatever we fear usually does not become reality." It's true. "And yet we waste so much of our energy on worrying. It's a waste of our time, talents, and potential." Yeah, like I feel like every day, if you say you wake up with 100% energy and then you spend, like, the energy is like pouring out of you. It's like a hole in a boat. Like if you are spending your energy with like worrying, like, I don't know if this is going to work or not, or I don't know, maybe this project I'm working on is a waste of time. I feel that a lot, both with starting businesses and working on creative projects like my book. It's like that energy, which could have been used for writing, gets pulled into the worrying or anxiety. So he adds, "Take a risk when you feel like you are being called to do so. It is usually the right direction and lifts you to the next level." So again, when I do work on a writing project, I learn from it. So even if that specific project isn't the one that, gets published, it definitely helps me train myself and helps me become a better writer. How do you know what risk to take? It will be the choice to do what matters most to you. So he really, really doubles down on this idea that, it's not about doing things that are, even seen as being a service. Like I've heard a lot of people talk about, well, be of service, and that's great. But even more specific to that, it's like, what matters to you? And then a couple of pages later, he kind of adds to this, and he says, "We automatically assume that we won't be able to make a living if we take a risk and go for what we really want. The concept that there is not enough in the world makes us feel small and less generous. Don't let your mindset limit your life's potential. If you have an abundant mindset, you start seeing new possibilities, you become more creative, and you become more capable of responding to difficulties in life. You free yourself to create your own destiny. So I think this is the second part of that, where it's like if you're starting something new, whether it's, you know, a business or a creative project, like the first question is my stuff good enough? And I think, you know, that's where a lot of us get stuck. But then even when we get past that and we see people making a ton of money doing creative work that's not good as our own, then we're just like, you know, but there are only so many slots for people to do this kind of thing. There are only so many clients or buyers for this particular thing. And so it's like, it goes from a question of whether our own stuff is worth it to whether or not there's enough demand for whatever it is, enough space in the world, essentially. So it's very much a scarcity mindset. And yeah, you know, to his point, we assume we won't be able to make a living if we go for what we really want. But that mindset changes our actions. And like, say you think, oh, there's probably not going to be enough people, so you send 5 emails, no one gets back to you. But if you assume, yeah, I just need to find the right people, then you send a lot more emails, or you're more free when you're like at a party or something like that to mention like, oh, this is the thing that I'm doing, I'm excited about. It very much changes your actions. So those are some quotes, and now I want to talk about what I call the Woo scale. I've really been like emphasizing the more logical sides of his advice, and I think he does share it in a fairly grounded manner, which I like, because especially when it comes to money, it can be hard to just like believe like spend more and you'll make more kind of thing. And I definitely know people that hasn't worked for, because I think there's a lot of nuance to it. He says at one point that he does believe in the law of attraction, and then he very quickly says like, not you don't need to believe in it, but like he ties it back down in a more grounded way, that it is logical that when you believe that there are opportunities out there, you're more likely to see them, for example. So this is definitely not a book that's going to kind of give a lot of empty and like high risk advice. I think he does share it in a very grounded manner, but just helps you to kind of think about the way that you are spending money, the way that you are making money, and have a different point of view on that. So, who is this book for? I guess I would say it's for people that have done, you know, some personal development, and I think people that feel chronically held back from doing things that they really want. So someone who maybe is in a salaried job and has something they want to do on the side, has a hard time putting the time in, or, you know, maybe taking those risks around that. And then, you know, someone who's started to do that but feels like the money hasn't started coming in. I think that there are just like some nuances, and I think he does do a good job of kind of, you know, taking something that can be very woo-woo around these ideas around money, and really grounding them into solid advice. So let me know if you decide to read the book. Let me know in the comments. I would love to hear about it. And you'll also find in the description a link to